Welcome. This is MoneyHeart, where we explore the emotional side of money. I'm Camille Diaz, and today we're discussing tuning in to your worthiness. My guest is Savannah Joy. She is the founder of Embrace Your Wild and an embodiment feminine leadership coach. Embrace Your Wild empowers visionary women to reclaim and embrace all parts of themselves, master their emotions and energy, take up space, and be seen in their fullest expression in relationships and business. When you show up powerfully and authentically every day for yourself, you can show up for your biggest visions. Through radical self-acceptance, feminine embodiment practices, and a deep connection to self, the Embrace Your Wild method opens up a channel for ultimate sovereignty in mind, body, and spirit. Savannah, welcome to MoneyHeart.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to tie in money and worthiness in the body today. So yeah, super excited. Thanks for having me.
I'm thrilled to talk about this all together as one concept. And I love this idea of worthiness because I feel like that's where a lot of us get stuck. So let's just kind of start with your story and this concept of embracing all parts of ourselves. How did you get into this? How did you learn to coach people through this process? It sounds like a lot, like a big deal. Like how do you even get started?
Yeah, thanks for asking. So as with all of us, we all have our traumas and our baggage and our life lessons and all of the things that we're working through right in this lifetime. And I was blessed with a father who didn't want me from birth. And that abandonment wound has really shaped who I am. And from a really young age, I found myself being the friend that was always championing the women in my life and being, reflecting back to them how worthy they are and how amazing they are. And just holding up that mirror and saying, no, look, like you're so capable, like this dream you have, these desires you have, like, why not you, and I've always been this cheerleader for the women in my life. And looking at it now, it's like, of course, like worthiness has been my deepest wound. And so, using that as my medicine for other women and healing myself and help healing others. So, I've always been a very creative, multi-passionate person. I'm a singer, I'm a photographer, done lots of other art stuff. And, there's so much of the story. Basically, I spent a lot of time working in corporate jobs I hated. I was married and I was in a relationship for 11 years from a young age. And I really was supporting him and his dreams and, kind of abandoning my own desires, but in support of him and our relationship. And it eventually got to the point where he achieved this level of success that we had been working towards. And it kind of was like, okay, cool. Now it's my turn. And I started really asking those deeper questions of like, okay, what is my greatest gift? And what do I really, really want to do in the world, right? What's my purpose here? And so as I started asking those questions and, asking those close to me and kind of, doing that research of like, what do you see in me and what's natural to me in that whole process? My mom said, I feel like you'd be an amazing coach. And I was like, a coach? Like, what do you mean a coach? And she's like, well, see, I took this training at the Coactive Training Institute, and they teach this style of coaching. And I see you naturally do a lot of these things that they teach there. And I was like, okay, I'm interested. And so I looked into it and I went and I attended their like foundations, fundamentals course. And I was like, oh my gosh, like these are my people. Like they speak my language. Like these are all the things I've always done, right? Championing people and holding up that mirror and like asking powerful questions and holding like non-judgmental space. And I was just like, wait, I could do this as a career. Like I could just be myself. Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
So, I come back to my partner and I'm like, oh my gosh, like this was the best ever. Like, I want to do this coach training. And he was less than supportive, right? He didn't want to invest the money. And it was like, well, you've tried all these other things before, right? Like you've had this side photography business and you've had this and that. And, I just don't know, like, are you really going to follow through with it? And at that time, I had not really worked through my worthiness wounds and my abandonment wounds. And I really took that on and was like, yeah, you're probably right. Like, maybe I won't stick with it or whatever. And, I ended up attending a sailing retreat. I was on a sailboat for almost a week and with these 3 incredible coaches that were trained in this modality. And on that retreat, I felt more seen and more held and supported by these strangers than I did in my marriage. And I was like, whoa, like huge wake up call. Like that's like something's wrong.
Yeah.
Something needs to change. And so I go back home after this retreat, and while on the retreat, the coaches reflected back to me. They're like, you would be an incredible coach. You should really go for this.
So they saw the same thing your mom,
they saw the same,
they all agreed, like, this is you, do you?
Yeah. Cause I had done the foundations course, and I told them that, and they're like, you got to do this. Like this is so you. So I go back and I felt so confident, and I had like learned all these tools of, standing in my power and my worthiness and, my inner goddess and all this stuff. And it was like all of this like new confidence that I had never really felt before. Yeah. And I took that back, and I tuned into my inner wisdom, and I was just like, this relationship has served me to this point, and now it's time for me to move on. And I got a divorce. I pursued my coach training. I was in Hawaii. I moved from Hawaii back to Washington, where I grew up. And I started building my coaching business. I still had a corporate job at that time, but that was really the catalyst for me stepping into my purpose and my worthiness. And through that process has been so much unlearning and so much rewriting how I show up in the world and how I can show up for other women as well. So
I love that. And I loved how you started it with, I was blessed with this thing, which the rest of us be like, I'm not sure that's a blessing, but it really is, because it led you down this path, and it formed you into the person you became. So that's really cool. That's really cool. And I love how I think this happens to all of us. We get the message, and then we ignore the message or push the message away. We're like, no, I'm definitely not doing that. And then, like 10 or 12 or 300 more people have to say, hey, by the way, I think you'd be great at this. Hey, could you help me with this? Hey, could you do this? Hey, I think you do this. And then finally we're like, oh, fine, I will do the thing. And then it turns out to be amazing. And you're like, oh, maybe I could have done that a little bit earlier, but
or maybe I knew that all along.
Right.
And I think that's the beautiful part of all the things that I work with women and all of this sovereignty and worthiness and all of this stuff. It truly is coming back to the inner wisdom of yourself and your body, and that you always know.
Right.
You may not be aware of it in the moment because you have a story or someone else's voice getting in the way, but you always know. And so that work is really in removing those extra voices and the clutter and the other stuff that blocks you from being able to hear that. Yeah. But in the body, I do so much work with embodiment, tuning into the wisdom of the body, the subtle, the tension, the subtleness of a yes, when you get excited and your body opens and expands, or like when it's a no and it's just like, ooh, no. Yeah. Like your body is always speaking to you. And it's this really beautiful process of learning the language of your body and yourself, and tuning back into that wisdom, right? Because I've always known that I'm that kind of person. I've always known I'm a coach-like person. But I was almost blind to it because it was so natural to me. And so, like the wisdom was always there. The answer has always been there.
Yeah. That's so funny because I feel like I've had the same experience. People would almost turn my name into a verb and be like, oh yeah, you cammed it because I fixed something, right? There was a system or a process that was broken. Like, oh yeah, you totally cammed it. Good job. And I'm just like, oh, great. but still resistant to the fact that I fix things and systems and processes and teach. Like so resistant to teaching, and then ended up teaching, but like didn't really call it teaching. Like, no, I'm not teaching. No. Yeah, you are. Yeah, you are. No, I'm running a program. Did you have to train all the staff? Uh-huh. Well, you might have taught them something.
That's so funny.
But no, it's not. No, don't do it. Yeah. So resisting the stuff that you know, because it's so much a part of you that you may not even notice it. Like it's just there. It's just how things are. So it doesn't even like, compute. So since this is a money show, let's talk about how this relates to money, because I feel like it's totally interwoven. Tell us more about
so much.
Right. So tell us a little bit more about like how we hold on to things money related in the body, and maybe even how we can make changes.
Yeah. So I was thinking about our talk today, and I was like, what would be a way to really nail this so people can feel it? And so what I'm going to do is take you into the body, because that's what I do. So I want you to just in your head, and for those of you listening, in your head, think about the amount of money that you make in a year currently. Okay. So just have that salary or rough amount in your head. Okay.
Right.
Now I want you to imagine receiving double that amount. And what I want you to notice, I'm going to do some more numbers, but as I do this, notice in your body the felt sense of when you imagine receiving that amount of money, how does it feel and what comes up for you? Okay. So double your current amount. So just tune in and just feel that, and just notice what is going on in your body. Is there any anxiety? Is there constriction? Is there expansiveness? Like, ooh, that feels like spacious and delicious, right? Just notice. There's no judgment. Okay, so now take that number and double it again, and imagine receiving that amount of money.
Okay.
And feel into the body there.
I'm gonna close my eyes so that I can really do it. Okay.
And just noticing without judgment.
Yep.
Yeah. So for
I don't want to interrupt anybody else's, but when we get through the exercise, then I'll tell you what I felt at each one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now to go completely opposite. So come back to your current salary, and now cut that in half and imagine receiving that amount.
Yep.
Okay. So this is a super clear way that you can notice in the body, the wisdom of the body. You can start to notice what are the stories, what are the beliefs, and what are the sensations around receiving that amount of money. So yeah, I would love to hear any of those amounts, something that came up for you that you're willing to share.
Okay, so I'm gonna start with the lowest one, which was like when I cut it in half, the last one you did, I was like, oh, like I was just totally deflated, like complete, like I wanted to like droop and like fall, like sink over, like, oh man, and that did not feel good. I did not love that.
And what's a story or a belief around that amount of money for you?
It would not be enough. Like that just felt like, oh, it's not enough. Oh, you worked really hard and didn't even generate this amount, like that. Yeah. So that was that story.
Judgment.
A total judgment of too much effort, not enough return. Didn't hold up my end of the bargain as far as like family dynamic, any of that stuff. Like totally.
Contribution, right? And you can start to see values that come into play here, right? Because really, anything that we do with money, the way we spend it, the way we treat it, right? It all comes back also to our values, right? So for you, contribution is a value. Right. And like, this is another way we can start to like feel into what else money has for us.
Yeah. Yeah. So picturing double my current amount, I was like, ooh, cool. Like that, like I felt really good about that. I was like, yeah, that'd be great. Like I was totally happy and I was good with it, like ready for that to happen.
Yep. Let's do it.
At ease. Let's do it. Yep. On track for that. Sounds amazing. When we doubled that once more, I was more of like surprised. I was like, wow, that's kind of a lot. Like, oh, cool. Like I wasn't upset about it or anything. So I felt that, but I was kind of shocked. Like, didn't know I could do that. So that's where that was interesting.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah. I love that. Yeah. And so just to normalize anything that's going on out there for you listeners, if there's whatever number, but oftentimes when we go to the bigger numbers, we start to feel like, oh, well, no one would ever pay me that much. Right.
Yeah.
And well, why not? Right.
Yeah.
And we can see like, well, I'm not smart enough, or I'm not capable enough, or I'm not talented enough, or whatever the beliefs or stories are, but that directly ties to our sense of value and worthiness. Right. Our ability to receive or make more money is directly tied to how worthy we feel inside.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. And I know at times in the past, I definitely would have felt like that. Like there have been times that I negotiated for a salary and I was like doing it over the phone and so nervous because for sure I was thinking they were going to say no, and I ended up with 5,000 a year more than what I would have like been okay with because I pushed myself to do that. So, I totally remember having those feelings of, I don't know if anyone will actually pay me enough. I'm not sure if I'm valuable enough. Not sure if it's, all of that stuff. And of course, through the last couple of years I've been doing the show, I have so many wonderful guests on that come on and teach about these things. The listeners are getting them, but I'm getting them too. So
yeah.
I listen to all of you and follow all the lessons, which is really cool. So now I'm super excited to be in the, hey, if I double my amount, like, oh, wow, check that out. Okay.
Ooh, what is that? What does that
Cool.
look like? What does that feel like? Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the beautiful thing too. Like for you, for example, when you talk about the double amount, the quadruple amount,
yes,
how you said, oh, that surprise, like you can start to feel into, well, who would I need to become? Like what's the body posture and the breathing and the embodiment of a person, the version of you that could receive that amount of money.
right.
And you can tune into that future potential and say, oh, if I could step into her shoes or put on her clothes or whatever, what do I need to let go of? Right? What body postures, what beliefs do I need to let go of? And what can I take on that would help me embody that version of me that feels more than worthy and receiving that amount of money?
I love that you brought up, what can I let go of? That's something that I've had my coach tell me, in the past. Well, every time you level up, you can't take everything with you. So something has to stay behind as you pass to that new next level. And you never know what it is. Like sometimes it's people, and sometimes it's thoughts, and sometimes it's physical stuff. Sometimes it's activities. Like you never know what that's going to be that you have to leave behind, but it becomes very clear when you're there. What's getting left behind. So I love that exercise that you just gave, because now when we're done, I'm going to go back and think about that some more and be like, okay, who are we going to be here in this new phase? Because I think that sounds fabulous. But I don't really need to double. Let's just go right to the quadruple. Like I'm going to aim for that.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And I would encourage you to feel into it more than you think about it, right? Like put on some music that makes you feel abundant and just begin to move around your body. Like just imagine, okay, I'm the 4 times amount salary woman, and move around the room being that woman with that song that juices you up, and just feel like what you can learn from your body in exploring that version of you.
I like that idea. I'm on it. That's so cool. I used to have, well, I still have this playlist that I would play in my car every time I'm on the way to give a talk at an event. So anytime I had to do a speaking engagement, and, I know what I'm going to say and I know it's going to go great. And I've been public speaking for over 20 years. So it's not like it's scary, but still I want to be fired up. Right. So I've listened to this list on the way, and the songs that were on it would change. It was just whatever song I love to sing, at full volume in the car on the way there right now.
Love it.
I limited it to like 10 songs, and I listened to the 10 songs on my list on the way to the event. And then by the time I got there, I was like, I could do this. So
love it.
It's super powerful for that kind of stuff.
It is. I use a ton of music and intuitive movement in my practice and on retreat, and taking women into these explorations, these kind of like non-linear, intuitive feminine movement practices, because it is mind-blowing what you can access when you get out of your head and back into the body. Like our body has so much wisdom. Like our body is our second brain. And we've been taught that, your intellect and your logic is where your value is. But we're missing out on so much intelligence and wisdom when we deny the body and we leave out the body.
Yeah. And that concept, like, I love that you're bringing this up, because I know I've experienced this so many times when I get that, like, I want to call it the sinking feeling in your gut, when like, this is no good type of thing, and then ignored it. And then it was a disaster. And then
you don't trust yourself.
I don't. So let's talk about that a little bit more. Like, what kind of things might our listeners be experiencing in regards to money or in regards to other situations that could be cues that they might be ignoring, pushing aside, not trusting, that it would probably help if we listened?
Yeah, I think one really important thing to note is that there's a lot of times when you hear the saying, well, just trust your gut, right? Just trust your gut, trust your intuition, right? But like so many of us have built up these trauma responses and these reactive patterns to protect ourselves. And a lot of times we think we're listening to our gut, but really we're reacting from a place of a trauma response or a place of protecting ourselves. And it's not truly that deep inner wisdom, that soft, gentle knowing.
Yeah.
And so I think noticing even just the difference between those two things, like a lot of the work I do also is nervous system regulation and getting out of survival mode and into thriving mode so that you can hear that inner knowing and you can trust yourself. Because so many of us feel like, well, I messed it up in the past, I can't even trust my own judgment.
Yeah. I
know, myself included, there's so many women, especially, that feel like, well, I can't trust myself. Nope. I've screwed myself over before. Like, this is not going to work.
Right.
And so a lot of what we do is beginning to identify, am I in a thriving state or a survival state right now? Am I anxious and tense and defensive or whatever? And like noticing, like, do you have tension in the body? Is your inner critic swirling in your head? Right. That voice, or are you in a peaceful, calm, grounded state? And there's that, like, just soft, gentle knowing. It's like this grounded, quiet knowing. It's that inner voice. So tuning in and feeling the difference between those two things, because I mean, I'll give you a super tangible example. Like, when I'm in survival mode, if I'm like in a conflict with my partner and I feel, and I'm like defensive and I'm angry or I'm upset, my survival reaction is to say, that's it, I'm out, I'm leaving, I'm done. And it feels so true. Like, it feels like there is no room for any other information. Like, I know in the deepest part of my body that, like, there's absolutely no way that I should continue this relationship and I need to go. And then I come back to a regulated state and we talk through it and, whatever, like, we resolve, and I come back to my normal grounded state. And I'm like, wow, I'm really glad that I didn't leave.
Yeah. There you go.
Right. And so I'm trying to think how to tie this into money. I think spending is a really tangible one to look at. Yeah. So looking at the way that you're spending money and what you're choosing to spend money on and how you're choosing to spend it, you can look in the body and say, like, if you're someone that, like, is an impulse buyer on Amazon, or an impulse, like, I'm just going to go to Target and I'm just going to go shop around and buy stuff.
Oh gosh, that's so bad idea.
So many of us.
Oh my gosh, I can't
so many of us
for less than $50. Like, it's not
literally.
I do not do that. Yeah,
totally. So it's like checking in with your body and saying, if I'm going to buy this thing that I want, or whatever it is, tuning in with yourself, to, like, taking a moment to take a deep breath and tuning in and checking in and saying, am I spending this to numb, to distract, or to run away? Yeah. Or to hide or cover up something, right? To suppress? Or am I spending this because it's something I truly desire and I'm coming from an abundant place, and it's like actual self-care. Like, I'm choosing myself. I'm going to buy this thing for myself as an act of love. Right. And so tuning in, you can feel in your body, if you get really, really honest, when you're just impulse spending to like make yourself feel better in the moment, or it's actually an intentional, true intentional act for you.
Right. That you're actually adding value to your life with this purchase, something that you need
and it feels good,
enjoy, and it feels good. Not just like fine, just press checkout, like that. That's not how we want to make purchases. Amazon, I do a little bit better because they have that save for later button, so I can just leave it in my cart. But like, it's so great.
The 72-hour rule for that I've found is like really good.
Really good. Yeah.
Really good.
3 days. If it's still 3 days and I'm still like, I need the thing, then okay, maybe I would love it. But usually in 3 days I've chilled out and it's like, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Target though, I mean, you have to buy the things before they let you leave the store. So I just don't go.
And that's where the check-in is good.
Yes, I love that check-in. Any other like exercises or movements or anything that we might want to consider doing just to help us kind of tune into this body wisdom and embrace that worthiness?
Yes. So this is not mine. I learned this in my coach training, but I want to share it because it's so simple and so powerful. Awesome. So the two qualities of your inner leader, your inner goddess, your highest, wisest self, whatever resonates with you, the two qualities of that version of you is self-acceptance and self-authority. Okay. And so there's two body positions that are super simple that you can start to practice. And they each have a very unique felt sensation. So if you want to join me for a second, put one hand on your heart and one hand on your belly.
Okay.
And you can even close your eyes and just tune in, take a deep breath and just feel into, what does it feel like to have your hands on your body and to just be with yourself? This is the body position of self-acceptance. You can probably feel it's right. It's like this, like it's really instantly chill. You can chill, you can get quiet, you can go inward. And this, this like tender touch on your own body is this really sweet, like coming back to yourself. And it's this like, I'm okay, I'm enough, I got you. Right. So this is self-acceptance. The other body position, if you put both hands on your hips.
Oh, I love this one too.
You can do it seated, but standing is a little more
powerful. Standing is great. I do this
body.
One. Yep.
Yeah. So this is self-authority, right? And so we get this like, chest open, shoulders back. It's this like confidence, openness. And really it's like, I have agency over my life. I am the author of my life. I write the next chapter. I write every word. I am in charge, nobody else, right? I am responsible for my life. So
I was going to say, so I learned this a few years ago and I call it the superhero pose. Because,
totally.
Right. Because that's the like you see the superhero standing there with the hands on the hips and the cape is flowing, unless they're one of the no capes superheroes. And I actually do it sometimes before I do kind of my daily map the day routine, like before I write out my plan for the day. If I'm having a day where I'm just like, I struggled to get up, I made it to the desk, I don't really want to do anything, I'm totally like uninspired. I will do superhero pose and some deep breathing and just stand in my office and like that. And by the time I sit back down, I'm like, all right, I can do this. I'm on it now. Like I feel totally changed. It is so cool how well this works.
They have and this is actual science. Like they have measured your hormones change, like literally your biochemistry changes. If you hold this position for 2 minutes, it literally changes your biochemistry. And that's why you actually feel better. Like, that's why you're like, oh, okay, I can do this.
Yeah. I didn't know it was the 2 minutes. Now I've learned a new thing to make that better. These are fabulous poses because the other one, the acceptance one, I did not know. I've been like walked through doing that, but I didn't know what it did. And now us practicing it, I was like, oh my gosh, this is like the most calm, chill, I could just sit here for a while type of pose ever.
It's that of that self-compassion, right? This this non-judgment and like welcoming it all, right? Because we are all dark and light and everything in between. And this self-acceptance, hand on the heart, hand on the belly is this really beautiful place of of welcoming it all and the self-compassion, right? It's like that mother energy of like, I got you, you're welcome, you're more than good enough. And it's like giving ourselves that own love and attention that we so often want from somebody else.
Right.
And like being that motherly energy and being that compassionate energy for ourselves.
Yeah. I love this. Thank you. This has been so much fun. Tell us what you're most excited about right now. What's going on in your world?
Yes. Well, always retreats. I always like, we have retreats going on, a couple every year, usually. One coming up in May 2023 in New York City. I'm partnering with a personal stylist, Tavia Sharp, and we're bringing all of the glam and fun of New York City and personal shopping and, learning to dress like a goddess, and then doing the Embrace Your Wild method, body wisdom work, and really stepping into that most powerful version of you. We're doing the sexy photo shoots and the clothes to match. And it's just this beautiful weekend of sisterhood and stepping into this glamorous, beautiful new version of you.
It sounds like so much fun. And I love New York. It's a great place to visit. So
yes,
it's going to be a blast.
Yeah. So on my website, on embraceyourwild.com, we always have our current and upcoming retreats. And then the other thing that I just absolutely love is working deeply with one-on-one with women in my program called Body Wisdom. And it truly is, it's like the 6-month deep dive of, it's everything that has helped me become the person I am today, coming out of my shy, unworthy shell and stepping into my leadership and my confidence and my full expression. And it's nervous system regulation, it's embodiment practices. It's truly unleashing that sovereignty from a mind-body perspective. So like really that is like that's my heart's calling. Like that's my deep work that I absolutely love doing. Yeah. So that and the retreats are at a tie, but
that's awesome. And I love how the thing that you now love doing is that thing that you resisted and didn't want to listen to until everybody said, go do the thing.
Yeah. You're good enough.
You're good enough.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. I'll do it again.
Right.
Oh, it turns out I love this and I'm awesome at it. Yay.
Yay.
Thank you so much. This has been amazing. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Camille. This has been beautiful.
If you would like to chat further with Savannah, you can email her at hello@embraceyourwild.com. Her retreats and her photography, which is so great to look at, I highly recommend jumping on there, are all on her website, embraceyourwild.com. Thank you as well to our listeners and viewers. I'm your host, Camille Diaz. I'm a business optimization coach, financial educator, author, and speaker. You can find all about me and contact me and see what I'm up to through my website, CamilleDiaz.com. Follow me on social media at Cam Unfiltered. Be sure to follow MoneyHeart at MoneyHeart Show. And our website is MoneyHeartShow.com. Savannah, what is the money mantra that you've picked for us today?
The money mantra that I love, I learned from my money coach, is it's already here.
Nice.
It's already here. Everything that you desire, all the money, all that 4 times the salary, it's already in your orbit. The clients are already in your orbit. And it's really just unblocking yourself to being open to receiving them, to being aware of them and receiving them. So it's already here.
It's already here. That's so awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.